Hello everyone and welcome to this tips and strategies video for Evolve. This is going to be a hunt mode. I'm in the middle of an evacuation campaign. This was pre-recorded, so I'm kind of going back and looking at my performance and going to give you some tips and point out like flaws in my game and things that you need to avoid doing. Now, I did win the previous map, so I have carnivorous plants are everywhere. Which is going to help me. It's going to slow down the hunters a little bit. So I have that in the back of my head going into the character select screen. Now, one of the big things about Evolve that if you're just getting started isn't readily apparent is the fact that there's a lot of choice in the way that you play. And what I mean by that is that after you start to unlock characters and the different perks and stuff like that, you'll start to see different strategies open up for you, and it makes the game a lot more versatile and a lot more fun. So I'm going to play a Wraith here. Now I'm going to end up picking 2 points in Decoy. At level 2 Decoy, you get enough time to really kind of get away from hunters and lay some decent damage down on wildlife. And a lot of times I don't go for the 3rd point. And then took 1 point of Warp Blast just to kind of give me some mobility. And damage resistance for Wraith is something I usually take, either that or the movement speed, so I can get away a little quicker, just because Wraith is so brittle. Now here I'm selecting the hunters because I'm playing offline. And this is, again, one of the first things that you need to learn to do. As you start to unlock new hunters, mix up the teams that you're playing with offline. It's going to help you because you're going to learn how to play against those different hunters and make it hard for yourself. Like in this case, I take Abe as the trapper, which Abe can't actively track me, but his stasis grenades are actually better against Wraith than either Griffin's harpoon gun or Maggie's harpoon traps, because I have Supernova as the Wraith, and that's my kind of main damage dealing. A lot of times harpoons don't really affect it because you're doing fast melee attacks, you're breaking them. So as a hunter, it can be a little frustrating playing against Wraith because you can't get those traps on them. So I usually, if I'm facing a Wraith as the trapper, I'm usually going to pick Abe. So that's why I go with Abe in this case. Now I'm starting off, and the first thing I notice is it's raining, which is good for me as the monster. Whether it does have an effect in the game, it's going to make it harder for the hunters to see me. It's also going to erase my tracks faster if I'm not sneaking, which I'm sneaking right now. And then there's all these dead bodies right where I start. And so you want to always be using the smell button. You want to be looking for things like this, because by the time I finish eating all of these bodies, I'm almost halfway to stage 2. And I didn't have to do anything. And we're, 15 seconds into the game, and I'm already halfway to stage 2. So this is why it's important to kind of be watching the environment. You can also kill steal from the other wildlife. So some of the predatory wildlife will kill to eat, and you can come in and steal their kills. Excuse me, which is actually a great way to get food too. Now, all I'm concerned about at this point is staging up. And running into trees, apparently. That's something I need to work on that's my own thing. You want to be careful with the trees. It can alert the hunters to your position because the sound of the tree falling. But at stage 1, I don't want to engage the hunters really as any of the monsters, but especially as Wraith. I don't have access to a lot of my abilities. As Wraith especially, you don't have a lot of health, you don't have a lot of armor, so you want to be as sneaky as possible and stay away from them. We're coming up on where I make the first of 3 mistakes in this match. Now, they weren't as costly as they could have been, but any one of them could have potentially turned the tide on me a little bit. So I'm ready to evolve here, and this is where a strategy that I like to employ comes into play. It works very well, except in this case because I mess up. What I like to do is when I'm ready to evolve, I have full armor. Why not take on one of these big wildlife monsters? They give you a lot of armor, so you evolve up and then you eat the monster. Also, you can't evolve while you're sneaking, which is what happens here. This is why I bust these trees. But there's my mistake. I assumed the hunters were coming from the other direction, even though I have no idea where they are, and they came up from essentially in front of me from the way I went. Now, I got away. I was on a cliff, so, dive off the cliff and go in that case. The other thing I did was stick to the waterways. Waterways are a great way as the monster to lose the hunters, especially if you've got a Maggie and Daisy combo. Daisy's going to come after you. She's going to sniff you out even if you're sneaking, but she can't track you if you hit the water. So here, I've got some choices. I'm definitely taking 2 points in the Supernova, and I go ahead and grab the Abduction. I said before, 2 points in Decoy is actually pretty good to start with. I usually don't take the 3rd point just because the duration and the damage goes up a little bit, but I'd rather have, more points in my Supernova, more points in my Warp Blast. Abduction, 1 point in an Abduction, if you're not very good at it, like I'm not, gives you a little bit of utility without wasting a lot of points. You can ignore it if you want to. I usually like it because it lets me snatch wildlife. If I find something like one with a perk on it, I can snatch it up and take it away from a group, or even grab a lone hunter. That doesn't happen as much when you play against the computer. It's the one fault of the computer is that it doesn't change its strategies up enough, but against human players, you definitely can find a lone hunter, and so sometimes it's nice to have the ability to just grab him and pull him away from the group. Now, I scared those birds when I dashed, so that's why, for the most part, I'm ignoring a lot of that wildlife in this section and just kind of dashing up here to these guys, because I don't want to get caught in the middle of a feed. And now, using the decoy to hunt for you is an essential part of playing as Wraith. I don't do it nearly as much as I should, but in that instance, I can pop the decoy, and while a decoy is killing wildlife, I can eat up, and am relatively protected if I do get caught. Again, smelling is key. If you're not smelling, you're going to lose as the monster. And sneak pouncing is a great way to feed up, because again, it's silent. You don't have the risk of taking damage as the monster, because the wildlife will attack you, they can damage you. So especially when you first evolve out and when you first start the game, sneak. Now see, there's the hunters. I see the hunters. I know they're coming, so it's like, let's get away from them. And so we come right over here and drop right back down. And you'll see that we are in the exact same spot, right there on the ground ahead of us. That's where I killed that crowbill. Now, he decomposed away, so I can't eat him. But it's one of the great things. You need to be mobile on the map. If you're not moving constantly, if you're not circling the map, if you get caught up in one area, not only are you going to get more carrion birds. The more you hunt in an area, the more likely it is that birds are going to drop. But B, you'll hunt out an area, and it makes it just easier for the hunters to find you. Now, I scared those birds because I know the hunters are behind me. I have a good idea of where they're at. And sometimes scaring the birds can work to your advantage. Like in that instance, I know that I'm going to be pretty far away from that area by the time the hunters catch up. So scaring those birds, maybe they don't find the right way to come after me. And here again, I see this tyrant. I know he's got a unique buff. So popping the supernova and hitting the decoy, and look at how much damage it did. So I have very little invested in getting it. Now, here's where my second mistake comes in. First of all, I didn't pay attention to what that perk was. I ate him and didn't look. It's actually a really good one. It's the health regen perk, which is very rare and can help the monster out because you don't get health back. I didn't see that. Second of all, this engagement with the hunters is sort of a push. I don't really do anything to them, as you'll see. I don't get any downs. I don't really... It's really just an engagement, and they really just kind of bust my armor, and that's it. And they do some health damage to me. And it's one of the things that, when you get caught in an area and you're not expecting it, it can get chaotic like this, and you cannot do anything. So it's important that you realize when you're the monster when to fight and when to run. In this instance, I got hit with the orbital barrage. The dome is down. It's time for me to go. I'm not doing anything. I don't have anybody close to death. I'm out of armor. I'm taking health damage. This is not a time to stand and fight. It's a time to run away, regroup, and try and figure out what my next move is. And so again, I'm in the water, because that means I can move without leaving footprints. And it's just about putting distance between me and the hunters and making sure they're not following me. Now, I have the health regen perk. I don't know this. I'm not really paying that much attention to it. And it's one of the things that you have to kind of learn as a monster to do, is to kind of really pay attention to what is happening in the moment in the game. Now, see here. This is another great example of the hunters have no idea where I am. So if I stay really still here, and I actually come out just a little bit too early for them, they kind of turn around and spot me right here. But if I'd have stayed still for maybe 10 more seconds, by the time the hunters figure out where I am, they'll run past me and I can move on and they'll never know where I am. At this point, I'm thinking they're behind me, so I'm not being that cautious. I'm trying to armor up mostly. And here I'm going to get my stage 3 ready. And you notice I leave because I'm not sure where the hunters are. I'm pretty sure they're on my tail. So I don't want to be standing there in the open and evolving. I want to try and find a corner to evolve in, which is, again, another big thing is, like, you want to be careful where you evolve at. In certain other game modes like Nest or Rescue, the hunters shouldn't be actively trying to find you, although sometimes when you play against people they will. But especially against a computer, they won't come after you. So you can get away with, like, just kind of evolving in the middle of in the open, and it doesn't really affect anything. So you can see I take Supernova, Warp Blast, and Abduction again. Again, I don't need the Stage 3 decoy. Maybe if I'm trying to play Rescue, I might take the Stage 3 decoy because it'll tie the hunters up longer. But here comes my next mistake. So I had that health regen perk. I have full health now, which is awesome. But I don't take care of this Armadon. I think it's an Armadon. And so it comes after me. It attacks me. Which is bad enough. I lose a little bit of health. But then here, I eat and take the different buff, which is the climb speed buff, which can be helpful, especially with Wraith, like if you're trying to get maneuver around. But if I'd have been paying attention and knew I had the other one, I might have actually waited it out and then taken the armor, or the climb buff, or I might have just ignored it altogether and let the health regen kind of catch my health back up. In the end, it's kind of a push. I had lost to about 1.5 bars of health. I got it all back and then lost some of it again. But, it's one of those things that you'll learn when you're playing Evolve is you can't get hung up on stuff like that because dumb stuff is going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. And there are going to be games where you play this and you're going to get caught at stage 1 and you're going to get, taken out very quickly. It's part of the game. So here I am. The hunters have all crowded around the power relay station. With the computer, you can pretty much guarantee this is what they're going to do. Human players are a little bit different. Sometimes they don't come to the power relay station. Sometimes they're still out looking for you. This may be my one knock against the computer, is that it is kind of predictable, and so at a certain point you really can't rely on it to kind of help you get better at the game, other than me just learning tactics against certain hunters. And this illustrates the point of before of when to fight and when to run. I'm out of armor, I'm taking health damage here, but I choose to stay and fight. Number one, I'm stage 3, which means I know I'm going to do a lot more damage. Number 2, I actually have good damage done on these guys. They are hurting right now. And so that, to me, gives me that kind of gut feeling to go ahead and push forward. See, I get 1 down. I separate Assault here. The dome comes down. I actually miss this Warp Blast, which is probably a good thing. It gets me outside and out from inside of there, where the others might have ganged up on me. Or if they'd have come outside, it might have been a different story. But here, Assault shield comes down. I catch Assault and the Trapper and the Medic all in this corner and take them all down in one fell swoop. But I'm almost dead. And that, again, heat of the moment, I thought Hank was standing in that corner. So sometimes you're going to make dumb little moves like that. It's fine. It's the nature of the game. But I only have a bar and a little bit left. So I send the decoy out. I'm going to eat all of these hunters here to kind of armor up. And maybe if I had more health, I don't go chase down the support. Maybe I just go straight for the power relay. But I have so little health left, I know for a fact that if I don't take him out, I can't survive another full encounter with the full group of hunters. So in this case, it's just like, no, go for the support, take him out, and I'm gonna end it here with the Warp Blast. So that's an example of pushing it to the limit. Like, at any point during that last fight, if I make one more mistake, I'm done. I lose, they kill me, and that's the end of it. But sometimes you gotta learn like when to stand and fight and when to run. Here I'm gonna get my minion for the next game, which is pretty cool. So again, when you're playing with strategies and stuff, the solo mode is great for that. It's just messing with different builds and stuff like that. But you really got to take it online if you really want to know. Because at a certain point, you're going to start to learn the pattern of the computer. But the game is great. It's got good legs. If you want to play with strategy, if you really like that kind of stuff, then this is a great game to kind of get into that. Because what works one time won't work the next. So that's why it's a pretty cool game. Alright, so I'm going to leave it here, guys. If anybody has any comments, put them down below. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know. And happy hunting.